You, on the mic with Mike, the leading social enterprise business show in RVA. Join Mike King, the partnership guru, daily at 1 p.m. on WJFN 100.5 FM, 92.7 FM, and 820 AM as he delivers game changers in Metro RVA. On the Mic with Mike showcases how business can help make society better. He discusses tech, culture, innovation, best business practices, and highlighting area nonprofits. Join Mike at 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, because it is the place where the best and brightest come to chat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on the Mic with Mike. It is the leading daily social business enterprise show in the Richmond area. I'm your host, Mike King, and I appreciate you being here. So, I'm your host, Mike King. As I said, I appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine, have no connection to, support of, or agreement with any other host, information, or ads on the station. I don't work for the station. I just appreciate that my program airs here on a daily basis to come to you. Join me as this cutting-edge show uplifts the community and showcases RVA in a different way. The sounds you're listening to are emanating from the Mike King Biz Studio, which is the global epicenter of social enterprise business. Joining us today, as always, is the super producer, the man on the wheels of steel, Al Green, and we can be reached by calling 804-778-8888. On the Mic with Mike highlights partnerships, people, social enterprise business organizations, and issues of the day. We'd like to thank our show sponsor, Tom Childry, the credit card guy. If you have credit card merchant services, Tom Childry is the guy who can handle it for you. He's been doing it more than 25 years. He knows how to make it work. Give Tom a call at 804-503-8472. He also does a lot of work in the community. Along the way, we have to pay some bills. The microphone isn't free, plus my grandkids do need stuff. So, take a listen to what they offer. They offer some great services and products. So please take a listen to them. They do a lot of great things in the community as well. Today's show, folks, we got the best show in RVA. We're here on WJFN Radio 100.5, 92.7, 820 AM. It is a place where the game changers meet. Today, what can I say? The program is outstanding. We have okay, let me just go down here and give it to you straight. We got BK Fulton's in the house, the man from Soul Vision magazine. He is a media conglomerate. We're going to talk about that, but also his commitment to the community and what he gives back and his vision as far as media and how to make it work. We got Tom Childry, the credit card guy. He's going to be in here with this tenacious top of mind topic. We're going to follow that off with Trina Clemens from Collegiate School. There's a program for high school students. She's here to talk about that. And then we're going to finish it up with Kim Greenwich, VP GM of NBC 12. But first, we're going to kick it off with BK. BK, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, brother.
Okay, so now you're a media magnet. Talk a little bit about the products that you have, how you got to that point, and then we'll talk about the message in the media.
Okay. Well, sure. Solidify Productions is a full-scale film production, TV, and book publishing company. We've got 8 films now. We're the first independent in the history of cinema to do 4 feature films in our first year. Our first film had John Cusack, Taye Diggs, George Lopez, and Luke Hemsworth, and premiered in theaters.
So we might have heard a name or two. I'm not sure if I'd ever heard of any of those people. So how do you jump out? How do you progress to that point? And what was the vision there to become a filmmaker?
Well, so I used to run a little company called Verizon.
Yes.
And I spent my first 50 years doing what I was trained to do, and was determined to spend my next 50 years doing what God made me to do.
There you go. See, I read your stuff.
You read the stuff? You did. I like that. I'm not surprised.
Okay.
And so for me, it was about giving back. And I wanted to use media to deliver a message. Media, whether it's radio, TV, cinema, is among the most powerful tools that human beings have to convey messages. And so when I thought about what I wanted my legacy to be, I realized that I could leave a digital legacy of cinema that did uplift. Too often when women and minorities get to tell their stories, it's from this prism of sorrows. So we got slave films, domestic violence films, Pookie got shot films. I'm tired of Pookie getting shot. I want to give Pookie a break. And I want to tell people about the stories of uplift, the stories of triumph, the stories where we win, the stories where we collaborate to a higher end, because those stories give the blueprint to young people to step in when we leave. It happened for me. I was an engineering student at Virginia Tech, wasn't doing so well, was flunking out just to make it plain, went to the library to plan my escape from Virginia Tech, and I believe it was divine. I believe God put me in the E185.5 section, and that's the section of the Dewey Decimal System where it has the history of black people. And I started reading about Lewis Latimer and inventing the carbon filament for the light bulb to burn. I read about Granville T. Woods and inventing the third rail and selling it to General Electric, the patent, in 1901. And I said, wait a minute, I can do well here. And I went literally from the probations list to the dean's list to the board of directors at Virginia Tech. And so just to put a period on it, so I figured if reading about the accomplishments of our ancestors could help me to go from the probations list to the board, then if I could put it on cinema and put great actors with it and great music and great scripts, then I could do that for the multitudes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to BK Fulton of Solidified Productions. Can you talk a little bit about how you go from being the Verizon, so a person would say corporate guy, to having the vision and making that happen, to go out on your own and establishing an empire?
Sure. I mean, our people have always been creative.
We know how to hustle.
You know how to hustle. So,
Yes.
Frederick Douglass had a paper. Ida B. Wells was one of the very first investigative journalists, had a paper. We know the pioneers in Motown and radio. And so we've always used the tools of our times. The tools helped to convey the messages in the civil rights movement even. When people saw those folk in their Sunday best being attacked with water hoses and attacked with dogs, they said, wait a minute, there's something not right here. When we saw the recent murder of George Floyd, something not right here. And it triggered the largest protest in the history of our country, over 23 million people. And so you say, okay, I have these powerful tools. I was in a place where I used technology at Verizon as the head guy. And so for me, it wasn't a big leap to say, well, what are the other assets in my quiver? Media, cinema. We're in a celebrity culture. So how do I take the power of celebrity to get young people to do something different? Right now, I feel like there's too much popularized foolishness, and we need to shift that narrative into something that will give people more hope.
When you look at, so you're sort of a Renaissance man. You are. So when you talk about, you gave us the history of minority and women, but you go across the board and you collaborate with the person, and you wrote a book, The Tale of the Tea. You went from not knowing a person to being very comfortable over something that had happened in our life. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. The Tale of the Tea is my latest book. We published it on the anniversary of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So on August 6th of this year, we published the book. Jonathan Blank was my co-author on it. We were all disturbed by a lot of what we saw going on out in the streets. There was a lot of protests, a lot of people hurt and angry. And so we were trying to figure out how can we use writing and art to heal. And so my wife had cleaned off a sign and it made the paper. And Jonathan is one of our law partners at McGuire Woods. And he said, hey, I'm proud to have you as a law partner. And she was like, if you're proud of me, you should see what my husband's doing.
You should see what my husband's doing.
Exactly. And so she sent him one of the movies that we had just released that was called The Most Important Film, released that month, One Angry Black Man. And he watched it. He sent me some kudos. We started an exchange in June. And by August, we had a book that was in the top 25 on Amazon.
How does a person make their dreams come true? a lot of people have some great dreams. My father used to always, I'm from Philadelphia, so we're not a city that really wins a lot of sporting championships. So he used to say a lot of great dynasties won one in a row. You know, just one.
Just one.
So how do you have the idea of making something happen and really taking the steps to make it happen?
Sure. So you gotta come up out that dream. You gotta wake up and go to work. God blesses all of us to turn our dreams and ideas into their tangible equivalents.
I was waiting for you to drop that.
You have to have the faith, be willing to do the work, and expect the outcomes. The other thing is you have to be humble, and you have to know what you're good at, and then bring in people that can help you. So it's called show business. I was a businessman for a large part of my career, so I knew that part. And the show part, I needed to bring in people who had gravitas in the show. So I brought in Monty Ross, who helped Spike Lee to form 40 Acres and a Mule and did his first 9 films with Spike.
Let me ask you this right there. How do you talk him in? He's had that level of gravitas. How do you talk him into paying attention to you?
So it's relationships, right? Relationships are critically important. I knew a cat that I went to high school with. He heard that I was making films. He said, "Do you know Monty Ross?" I was like, "Well, actually, I need to talk with somebody like that because I want to go to a whole nother level." And so he's like, "Well, he happens to be teaching at ODU in Hampton. Let's have dinner." And so we arranged the dinner. I told him what the vision was. He came on. We also recruited a brother out of Brooklyn, New York, who understudied under Joel Schumacher and Martin Scorsese. So Q is like my right-hand man. Q came and relocated. So they all live in Richmond now. We took a kid from VCU, Nick. He told me, "Young brother," he said, "I really want to write." He was an honor student. He wasn't getting the kind of jobs he wanted that really respected his talent or his craft. I was like, "All right, I'll take a chance on you. You want to write? I want to start a magazine. I'm going to put some money into you, and you're going to help me to write these articles. You'll be the co-founding editor. I'll be the co-founding editor." And so now, 2 years later, I mean, our issue next month will have Jeffrey Wright on the cover, the Jeffrey Wright.
Okay. So as a business owner, what's the biggest, when a person talks about exposure, you seem to be very good at exposure, and we've had this conversation. How do you generate exposure so people see what you're doing?
Well, I think, that point I made earlier was not just to sound witty, the idea of using the tools of your time. So doing interviews like this and being open to it, making sure that you use the social media, you plug into the young people, you are authentic so that because people can tell when you're saying something that ain't real. And that'll be the quickest turn off, and they'll shut you out. We're in this little bit of cancel culture, I guess they call it. And so what we do is when we, even in our magazine, for example, we had the founder of Netflix, we had Vivica Fox, Deborah Martin Chase, who did Harriet. And what we did was we said, we don't want to write about you just to sing your praises. What we want to do is tell that young kid who thinks they're on the wrong side of the tracks how they can do what you did. We want to demystify your success. And so people got that authenticity, that authentic response, those authentic writings. They saw us as a genuine publication that cared about the community. Then we launched our TV network, soulvision.tv, and deliberately, we launched it on Valentine's Day because we wanted it to be a gift. And now we have over 400 hours. We've got the most programming of any minority-owned over-the-top TV network right here in Richmond, Virginia.
Which people would be shocked at.
Yeah.
So from the business structure, you sit over these different entities. How much of a, part do you play in each of them? I see a picture in a number of the things.
I'm close to all of it. I mean, I'm a person that can go from 30,000 feet to granular level on the sand. And so we get a good team, and I trust them to do their work. But I come in to help them because I have a lot more experience than they do. And in addition to an engineering background, I have a Master of Science degree from Harvard and the New School, and a Juris Doctorate in Intellectual Property, Telecommunications, and Electronic Commerce. And so I know how to do a lot of things. And right now in this early part of the business, it requires a lot of things. But the cool thing about that, if you know your history, historically, we have been many things. I mean, the guy who's on the cover of my book, The Tale of the Tee, Dr. George Grant, not only invented the golf tee in 1899, he was also the first black professor at Harvard and also a dentist.
Ladies and gentlemen, see, this is what On the Mic with Mike brings you. Game changers like this right here. You could go other places and hear whatever. You're not going to get that, so that's why you tune in here 1 to 3 p.m. Today we have BK Fulton here dropping nuggets of knowledge on business, industry, and everything in between. Talk a little bit about the culture, the business culture of Richmond and how you see it.
You know what's interesting? I mean, we're starting to get a little love from Richmond. We were recently featured in Richmond Magazine. Occasionally something will pop up in the papers. But what was interesting was we dropped this really important film, getting rave reviews all around the world, and crickets from my hometown. And I think people were get used to seeing you a certain way. And so they saw me as the guy who ran the phone company and not this guy who was doing something serious in media. And so, but over time, people warm up to it. And when I talked to the team about it, I told them, don't despair. I told them, look, we're not doing this for the attention. We're not doing this for the media. We the pace car, and they just got to catch up. And when they catch up, hopefully we'll still have some time for what they're talking about. But we are moving. We're about to launch something internationally that's going to change the whole way people go to the movies and buy their digital media. Especially as soon as the movies open back up, we'll be the first company to launch an app that allows people to attend any movie, IMAX, theater, pay for any of their digital streaming services for just watching the ad. Nobody's done it before.
As I say to people when they're here, what gives you hope these days?
What gives me hope is the young people standing up for their rights. I was concerned that we had handed young people the civil rights, but not the struggle. And so they might not have had the grist that's required to fight for what is right. And then when I saw the young people out in the streets, when I saw them, going out again day after day after day and holding lines on their values, it told me that the future is going to be bright. It gave me hope. When I saw people in line 5 hours to vote, that gave me hope. When I saw this one older lady, 93 years old, named Mildred, she drove 300 miles each way to vote.
That's when you know you want to vote.
That's just like hope. When I hear people say they never voted before, saying they voted now. And so it gives me hope. Because at the end of the day, at some point, you have to get to a place in your life where you are doing something not for yourself, but for future generations. I always tell people, what is the world we want to hand to our children? I want to build pools that I never swim in. And that is the work that we have to be about.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank BK for coming in here and giving us this information. It's been truly an honor. How can people find you once again?
You can check us out and find all the companies on www.solidifly, SOULIDIFLY.com, solidifly.com.
All right, we'd like to thank you for coming.